Royal Rebounds TV with Calvin and Barry. Just two crazy fans of the Sacramento Kings, and they sharing their opinion. So be sure that you subscribe. It's for the fans, by the fans. Whether you chilling on the couch or wilding in the stand. For laid back conversations about the Kings, subscribe here. Staying down until we come up thinking this gonna be our year. We're here drinking beer, talking about the Kings. Be sure you subscribe so you can hear that bell ring. Yeah.
What's up, Kings fans? Welcome back to Royal Rebounds, the Sacramento Kings YouTube channel for fans, by fans. If you're a Kings fan, make sure you smash up that like button and hit that subscribe button. Calvin and I are live after every single Kings game. It's Saturday. We got good news. The Kings worked the Clippers 123-96. Cal, what's up, dude? How you doing?
Doing great, man. Happy Saturday to you as well. Big win today for the Sacramento Kings. And, man, did they play some defense or what?
Huge win. I see you got the chain on, and I got to play the video, man. I got to play the video.
The Kings won, yeah. Oh, yeah, the Kings won, yeah. The Sacramento Kings, oh, yeah, the Kings won, yeah. Fox is so fast. Sabonis is so strong, yeah. Coach Mike is so smart, yeah. They are the playoff bound, yeah.
There we go. We got some Island boys. It's official. The Kings win. They light the beam.
Light the beam! Woo!
Yes, sir. Let's go, man. The beam is lit.
The beam is lit. So
The
first
beam is
up,
lit.
Calvin, before we even talk about the game or get into any of this stuff, obviously the Kings are killing it right now. They're the best team in the league. We know all this stuff. But something that really stood out to me in this broadcast, we heard Mark Jones say the inside golden one is the fake beam. Apparently the button we've been seeing all the players press or whoever the special guest of the night. Apparently that's not the real beam, Calvin. How you feel about that? Because I feel like they just told me Santa Claus doesn't exist.
I'm not going to go that far. It's not surprising to me that it's more of a gimmick and somebody else really controls it. It doesn't bother me. It doesn't really bother you?
It does bother me because, I mean, dude, if we're trying to turn all these aliens, all these people not from Earth into Kings fans, we better have a legit beam, dude. I'm just saying. Anyways, I'm happy. I'm excited to see what the beam's going to look like lit up during the daytime because it's still day, which is pretty exciting. But the most important thing, the Kings get a victory here. Shout out to everybody in the chat. I see Mike is here, Goth and Eric, Vang, Ninja Style, PK. Welcome in, everybody. Welcome in. Hopefully you guys have had an amazing Saturday. I know it's still early, right? Like it's not even 2 o'clock here for us.
We're going to have a purple sunset tonight because the beam will be lit when the sun goes down.
Yeah, it feels
maximize
good.
The amount of time that the beam is alive, right?
Shout out to Dennis here. So Calvin, let's talk about this game a little bit. Kings win 123-96 over the Clippers. They basically were in control of this entire game, right? No Paul George, no Kawhi Leonard, no Luke Kennard, no Norman Powell, which I thought was really underrated. And then we got to see Lyles return. De'Aaron Fox is still dealing with kind of the illness, which we kind of first heard about today. Hadn't really heard much about that. Obviously, Keegan Murray sets a new career high with 23 points. Great game for Sabonis, although he does get in foul trouble early. Shout out to Fred here. But Calvin, give me your first thoughts on the game today.
Well, look, at all those guys resting for the Clippers, I know that's going to be the easy talking point for anybody who's not a Kings fan or somebody who's trying to look at this game objectively. The Kings blew them away, but they didn't have any of their players. Well, there's also no excuse for Sacramento, right? If none of those guys are playing, you would expect if the Kings are as good as people like us think they are, that they're going to come into this game on the road and dominate, and that's what they did from start to finish. Sabonis set the tone early. They had no answer for him. But the biggest takeaway for me in this game was the half-court defense for Sacramento. I mean, you hold the Clippers, I want to make sure I get these numbers right, to 35% from the field and 27% from three. They played really, really outstanding defense tonight. The help defense was great. The rotations were really good. You could just see the Clippers were struggling to get good looks at the basket. Really, the only damage they were able to do was in transition. That's just such a big positive for this team that continues to build, I think, every single game. We know that Mike Brown is really paying a lot of attention to that, and if the Kings are able to continue on this trend, they're going to be a very scary team to deal with as the season goes on.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I love what Fred said here in the chat. Light the Beam chants in LA was music to my heart. I couldn't agree more. That felt great. That's something you don't get very regularly, Calvin.
Yeah. What do you like better, Light the Beam chants in LA or Beat LA chants in LA?
Dude, I honestly am digging to Light the Beam. I think this is a phenomenon that's taken over the world. All the other teams are jealous. They don't have beams. We got a beam, dude. Our beam is bigger. It's better. It's stronger. And we light it when we feel like it.
Yes.
It feels good. It feels really good. All right, let's go ahead here and dive into the box score. I just got to say it one more time because it feels so good. Kings win 123-96 over the LA Clippers. They now improve to 12-9. Domantas Sabonis, 26 minutes for him tonight. He was in foul trouble almost all game long, but he was killing it in the first quarter. 15 points in the first quarter, 6 of 6 shooting from the field. Ends with 24 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists, and 5 personal fouls. Calvin, definitely something I want to talk about a little bit later on is Sabonis and how we can get this guy to stay out of foul trouble because he really is a difference maker. And I remember during this game, you made a remark to me. You're like, dude, he should have 40 points. But, unfortunately, he was on the bench for a portion of that. 26 minutes for Harrison Barnes, 10 points for him, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 4 of 6 from the field. Also hit a 3 in this game. Keegan Murray was Threegan Murray in this game. 23 points, a new career high in 28 minutes. 7 rebounds, an assist, 8 of 15 from the field, and 3 of 8 from three-point range. Calvin, it looks like he's finally got his shot back, which feels great. We'll definitely talk some more about him. De'Aaron Fox, 14 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists in 28 minutes, 5 of 12 from the field, and 1 of 4 from three-point range. Kevin Huerter, 12 points in 30 minutes, 4 of 8, 1 of 3. This is the first game he's hit a 3 in the past 3 games, ending that streak that he had the last 2 games, missed both of his three-point attempts. So first time in 3 games that he's had a 3, which is good news for him. 10 points off the bench for Metu, 6 for KZ Okpala, and 13 points for my guy, Malik Monk. As far as the Clippers go here, you're looking at this roster. There's still some decent names on here, but obviously all the big names are missing. 13 points for Zubats, 13 for Terrence Mann. Reggie Jackson, 6 points for him. One of the Morris twins, 6 points. 3 for Coffee. Batum, 0. 7 points for Robert Covington. And 12 points for John Wall off the bench. And then my guy, BJ Boston, 18 points for him. Calvin, anything that really stuck out for you in the team stats? I know points in the paint are pretty big for this game.
Yeah, points in the paint. I kind of, last year I paid a lot of attention to points in the paint because the Kings were not as good of a three-point shooting team, so I felt like it was more important. This game in particular, I'm looking at the assist-to-turnover ratio. We talk so much about how the Kings' new system offensively creates all these open looks, and Sabonis being kind of the trigger man is really, really key for them. And their 31 assists tonight, 9 turnovers, and a few of those turnovers came, pretty late in the game when this was already wrapped up. So that if you're going to post those types of numbers on a nightly basis for a team that's right now second in the NBA in offensive rating, good luck keeping up with this team. They're going to put 120 plus on the board most nights.
Yeah, and another thing to mention here, the Sacramento Kings held the Clippers to under 100 points, which is the first time they've done that this season. So definitely huge. The Clippers shot horrible from the field, only 35%, and shot 27% from three-point range. Dude, the Kings are basically 1 percentage point below the Clippers in terms of our three-point percentage versus their field goal percentage, which is a big reason for the big difference there. Free throws, the Kings did not shoot well, only 66% from the free throw line. They took 30 attempts in this game. Obviously, I think that, if this game was a little bit closer, they probably would have spent more time at the line. That percentage probably would be a little bit better. But that's the only thing I'm really looking at in this game. It's kind of a little alarming for me because we had talked about how much better this team has gotten at shooting free throws, specifically De'Aaron Fox. But I'm just being nitpicky here. That's definitely something that does stand out to me. And then you mentioned the assist, 31 for the Kings, only 15 assists for the Clippers. They look absolutely lost out there defensively and offensively. They're missing all their players. What else do you expect from this team, right?
Yeah, I mean, they were shorthanded for sure. And they needed to have guys step up and play much better than expected or over what their ability level is, and give the Kings a lot of credit. They took it away right from the beginning, and they stuck with it the entire game. I mean, the Clippers made a few runs in there, but again, it's the NBA. It's a game of runs. Everybody's going to go on one eventually. But for the well over half this game, the Kings were up by more than 15 points, I would say, up by 31 at one point. So this was a great all-around game for Sacramento. Good confidence builder. Again, you get a road win in between a couple of home games. Hopefully that bodes well for the tough road trip that they have coming up.
Yeah, definitely something we're going to be talking about later in this show because we do return home for the Bulls game tomorrow and then go on a really tough 6-game road trip. So we'll definitely dive into that as well. Shout out to Patrick, Tito, Fred Dixon, Kristen, never going to get tired of winning. Feels good to win, man. It feels great. Let's take a look here into the standings. This is the Western Conference here. As you can see, the Kings moved up a little bit here. They are now the 5th seed at 12-9. They leapfrog the Jazz and the Clippers. Clippers are down here at 13 and 11. So, Calvin, we are slowly moving our way up there. I think I made a prediction on this channel a couple weeks ago that the Kings would be in the top 4 in the Western Conference standings by the NBA trade deadline. So I'm not saying, but I'm saying, Calvin, it could be true. It could very well come true. Shout out to Bryce, Sebastian, and Eric. Welcome in, guys. Welcome in. Calvin, you know what I need?
Guess what? I got a fever. And the only prescription is more cowbell.
Yes.
I'm telling you, fellas.
More cowbell.
You're going to want that cowbell.
You're going to want that cowbell, Calvin. We need some cowbell.
You're going to want it.
And while we're on the subject, please make sure you like this video. Make sure you share this stream with all your favorite Kings fans. Hit that subscribe button and hit that cowbell notification bell so you'll get notified every time we put out a new video. Right now we do post games after every single Kings game, but we are definitely gearing up to put out some more Kings content, have some fun interviews with some insiders and stuff like that as well. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that. Definitely. Okay, Calvin, let's jump back here into the game. This is kind of a weird question, but it's a blowout. It's a little tricky one. But who's your king of the game tonight? And I want to hear from you guys in the chat as well. You can just spam your last name of who you think was the king of the game. Go for it, Cal.
That's a tough one. I mean, I'm going to go with Domantas Sabonis. I think he would have very easily been the king of the game in a landslide if he didn't pick up a bunch of fouls and was able to play more minutes. But the way he started this game, he dominated in the first quarter, got them out to such a fantastic start. I'm going to go with Sabonis for this one. Should have had probably a 40-point triple-double in this game.
Yeah, I got to go with Sabonis as well. I mean, 10 of 11 from the field, 2 of 2 from three-point range. The dude played absolutely incredible, and this is only in 26 minutes of action. So I thought that this was definitely Sabonis's game. I see some guys talking about Murray here in the chat. I don't want to take anything away from Murray.
Murray had a good game.
Murray had a great game, but most of Murray's scoring came late in the third, fourth quarters where the game was pretty much over. But, we'll talk about that here in a second. But I love what I've seen out of Murray and what Mike Brown has been doing, putting Murray in a position to succeed. But let's talk a little bit about Sabonis. Honestly, the only thing I can really talk about in terms of this game, I like to talk, when we win games, I'm happy. I like to celebrate a little bit. When we lose games, I'm upset, right? And it kind of spirals into whatever happens. But, some things, when I do a good job or I win a basketball game or whatever happens, things are going positive. Sometimes I do like to reflect and I like to say, okay, well, we won this game, but what are things that I can do to still get better, right? Because the goal is to get better after every single game. It doesn't matter if it's a win or loss. The goal is to get better every single game. So if I'm going to be nitpicky, I mentioned the free throw percentage in this game. I'm mentioning the foul trouble for Sabonis. One thing that we really noticed in the first 4 games of the season, when the Kings lost all 4 of those games, Sabonis was in foul trouble in almost all those games. Since then, he seemed to be doing better. We have seen nights where he's been in foul trouble at halftime, stuff like what happened today. But, my one thing for Sabonis on how he can improve, how this team could improve surrounding him would be him staying out of foul trouble. Do you have any thoughts on Sabonis, why he gets in foul trouble, things he can do to keep himself out of foul trouble, and just anything like that? Any tips, Calvin, from a hooper?
No. I mean, we talked about this after the last game. He's a big body that uses his strength. They call him the ox, right? So he plays physical. And when you are in those positions, especially if you're basically the only big man on the team, it's pretty likely that you're going to pick up a few fouls that could either go either way or are bad calls throughout the course of a season. You could argue that he's had a lot more than his fair share. I definitely thought I saw Deuce Mason tweet this today, and I agree with it completely. There were some really awful late calls in this game in particular. So I don't know what the deal was. Maybe the refs were on island time like we are or something like that. They were a little slow today. But look, it's unfortunate. You obviously want him to stay out of foul trouble. I don't think that he's doing anything in particular that's warranting him getting more foul calls than he should be. I like his play. Again, I think he challenges shots at the rim pretty well. He stays vertical most of the time. It's just unlucky. And again, when you're a big guy and you use your body like that, you bang inside, it's going to happen. So it's unfortunate. I don't really know what the answer is in terms of how does he not pick up some of those fouls. I think over the course of a season, you got to expect that things average themselves out a little bit, hopefully. But I think what's maybe a bigger part of this to talk about is, you mentioned the 0-4 losing streak to start the season. And yes, Sabonis being in foul trouble really hurt them. But I think what also really hurt them is they had nobody to replace him at that point. Now, I'm not saying Chimezie Metu is an all-star or anything like that, but he's gotten so much better for them at the backup 5. He had 2 blocks tonight. He's really playing well offensively as that high rim lob threat. We saw Monk throw a couple of beautiful passes to him at the rim today. I don't think we're talking enough about the fact that it's not an ideal situation, but the Kings can survive for longer stretches of time now because Metu is really becoming more comfortable in that backup role. So it helps when Sabonis picks up fouls.
Yeah. I mean, Metu's been incredible. I really like what he's done. He's really surprised me. The difference between him and last year, the shot selection, the passing ability. I think he's done a really, really great job. Fouls are tough, man. It's really hard. Like as a coach, right? You want to encourage your players. You want them to play with energy, with, aggression. Controlled aggression, right? But you want them to be out there trying, and you don't want to limit people. You don't want to say, you shouldn't have done that because, that could affect them in the long term and stuff like that. It does suck picking up fouls, especially early fouls, and getting yourself taken out of the game. So I think that was a really great point. Is it's not so much about Sabonis, it's about what you can do when Sabonis is gone to help keep the ship afloat until he returns. But I really, really hope he can figure that out because it is an interesting situation. I do not like to see him keep getting into foul trouble. So hopefully he can figure that out. I see a couple people here in the chat mentioning KZ Okpala. Also, shout out to Charlie here and shout out to Guy. Appreciate you guys. Just my opinion. Shout out to you. We appreciate you. But I see some people in here mentioning, Fred Gonzalez says KZ changed the game early, not scoring, but physically. Ninja Style says KZ played great, even though the box numbers didn't show it. A bunch of people here are really high on KZ. And Calvin, you mentioned to me during the game that maybe this was the plan all along. Give me your thoughts on KZ, because, you know, we'd like to see him make these threes, right? We've seen him attempt a couple of these threes, and we're like, man, if he could just make that shot, his game will change. He'll be out there so much more, because he does a great job on the defensive end of the floor. Some would say he's a little bit of a liability on the offensive end of the floor, so you're kind of trying to find that balance. And I think that's really what is going to impact his minutes going forward, is he's going to be very limited until the offensive game kind of catches up. So give me your thoughts on KZ, what you saw from him tonight, and then, you know, what you kind of envision for him throughout the rest of the season.
Well, I agree with everybody in the chat that he was big for the Kings today. I think he's been playing, well, obviously he's been getting more minutes, so that gives him more opportunity, but he's been playing very well as of late. And I do wonder if maybe this was a little bit by design. And what I mean by that is, you know, I think some people were definitely surprised to see him starting for the first game of the season. And then, of course, he doesn't play for a long time after that. But what I think, and, you know, a theory of mine, but trying to get inside Mike Brown's head. Obviously, he had familiarity with KZ before they came to Sacramento together. He knew what he was capable of defensively, and he wants to change the defensive culture in Sacramento. So I think by setting that standard, by saying, if you play defense, you're going to play for me, he starts him game one. Now, I know he didn't exactly blow anybody away, although I thought his individual defense on Damian Lillard that first game was really good. He just picked up a few early fouls. However, in the grand scheme of things, the Kings as a team hadn't really come together and become a better defensive team at that point. So it's a lot harder to affect the game, even though you're a great one-on-one defender, if the team around you isn't playing good team defense. And we're 21 games into the season now. The defense is getting better. Guys are buying into the system. People are playing harder. That's allowed KZ to hit the floor now because it adds to the ability defensively as a team. He's able to use his really good one-on-one skills, plus the team defense around it is better. So I think that this might have been what Mike Brown wanted all along. He knew maybe that KZ wasn't the starter as a long-term option, but he sees him valuable to this team in a bench role to where he's going to get some minutes. And if it helps the Kings become a much better defensive team, it's going to mean that they win a lot more games. So offensively, yes, if he can hit threes much more consistently, obviously that's going to help. But I do like the fact that he's been a little bit more aggressive lately, trying to get the ball to the basket. That will also help his playing time increase as well.
Definitely. It's so cool how this team has quite a few guys on it already now. I mean, I would say KZ's on there. Sometimes you could include Metu, Lyles, Terrence Davis, Davion Mitchell. You know, there's a lot of guys now on this team that can affect the game in other ways than the box score, right? You hear me after every game praising Malik Monk. Yeah, 20 more points from Malik Monk, or 30 points, or 13 like tonight. You know, and I really like that aspect of him. But it's so cool to have so many different guys on this team that it can affect the game in different ways. They don't even need the ball, you know, and that's kind of, you know, we're kind of past that era of like these huge superstar teams, right? Where everyone was just going together to try and create their own like big three. And then the major problem was like, where does the ball go? There's only one ball. There's three guys. They all need the ball to do their own thing. And then you saw teams like the Hawks during that era that didn't have really anybody, no star player on that team. They just played great team basketball, and they were able to you know, I wouldn't say succeed or maybe not thrive because they didn't win a championship or anything like that, but they were really, really successful. And I kind of see a similar thing here with this Sacramento Kings team where it's very well balanced. We're seeing multiple guys here that can affect the game with and without the basketball, and it's finally resulting in some wins here. So good news that keeps happening. Shout out to Antonio and everyone else that just joined in. Guys, don't forget to smash up that like button. We get paid in likes, so we greatly appreciate if you hit that like button. All right, moving on here. Talked a little bit about Sabonis. We talked about KZ and some of these bench guys. I saw somebody in the chat talk about trading Rashawn Holmes. That seems to come up every single show, and we really have no idea, what to even expect at this point from a trade of Rashawn Holmes and what could happen with him. We talked about potentially bringing in DeMarcus Cousins in the past. I see some guys bringing up Jay Crowder here in the chat. We definitely be open to bringing in a guy like Jay Crowder, but it just ultimately comes down to what does it cost, right? What are you giving up to get a guy like that? But I want to talk about Harrison Barnes here, Calvin. 26 minutes, 10 points tonight. The dude has started off this season incredibly slow. He's had a couple good games in the past couple weeks here, and this is a free agent at the end of the year, so he could open up some cap space for this team. But I also kind of see him as the glue guy here. So, give me your thoughts on Harrison Barnes. What did you like? What did you dislike out of him tonight? What direction do you see he's headed in? And also, are you considering or contemplating trading him here at the deadline, or are you still kind of in the same boat that we were a couple weeks ago as, don't mess with anything and let's revisit it at the end of the year?
Well, as far as Harrison Barnes goes, glue guy, I think, is a good way to describe him. Just a steady rock is what he's been over the last 10 or so games for this team. And you can see how much of a difference it makes for this team. They win games when he plays well. And what I mean by well is, somewhere in double figure scoring, 10 to 16 points, something like that, 7-8 rebounds. We all know how good of a rebounder he is. A reliable defender. I mean, again, not a guy like KZ or Davion or De'Aaron Fox that's going to be an absolute lockdown one-on-one guy, but really smart, knows where to be on defense. And again, if that team defense plays on a string together like we saw today, really, really useful. So I think that he's a really good fit for this team. I mean, a lot of people I see in here are saying, would you rather add Robert Covington or Jay Crowder in place of him? I'm not really looking to do any of those moves right now. I think that this Kings team is really getting better every day. We've seen them compete really well with the best teams in the league. I know they got blew out by Boston in the fourth quarter, but again, they were winning that game, albeit playing pretty poorly, especially shooting the ball for most of that game. They were winning in the third quarter. The signs are good for Sacramento. I think they've got a really good chemistry going. These guys like each other. I think they really like Mike Brown. I don't really think I would try to look to move Harrison Barnes at this moment unless there was some deal out there that was just too good to pass up. And I don't really know what that deal is right now. I'd have to see it, on paper probably. But as long as the Kings keep competing and winning games like this that they should be winning, and winning on the road, I mean, that's something that the Kings haven't done in a very, very long time. I'm saying don't mess with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I got a little bit of like the Stockholm syndrome or whatever, where, I'm looking at the past, like what happened when we had the scores and you trade Shumpert, and it just, like his impact was not that great numbers wise, but, just the fact that he was such a big part of the team chemistry and the swagger. And I think it almost like when it happened, players are kind of like, wow, I'm really expendable. This team could just trade me in a second and I'm not really like part of something. Versus right now, I feel like all these guys feel like they're part of something. They're growing, they're creating something. So I'm kind of a little hesitant on trading, especially a starter, but any guys that are playing, major minutes here. I got to agree with Ninja Style. The only players I'm trading right now are possibly Alex Len and Rashawn Holmes. But then at the same time,
there's probably not a deal out there for either of those guys that's worth doing. So
exactly, you got to
if I could make one more point sorry, Barry, to cut you off, but one more point on Harrison Barnes. Last year we talked a lot about how the game plan was get him more 3-point shots. Right? Luke Walton said it in the past. He wants him shooting 7-8 threes a game. It would have been a great idea if he was as consistent of a 3-point shooter as we all maybe thought he was. But I think the change that they've made this year is much, much better for him and for the team because they've got good 3-point shooters around him. We've seen the 3-point field goal attempts go down, and he's looking to get to the basket a lot more, which means free throw attempts go up. He's a good free throw shooter. He finishes well through contact. I think that's the way he needs to play.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Dude, I mean, I totally forgot about that. I probably blacked it out in my memory because I don't want to think about it. But honestly, that quote saying that he wants Harrison Barnes shooting that many threes a game, right there just goes to show what Luke Walton is capable of coaching in the NBA. So I thought that was a complete miss. But I like what Harrison has been. I like what he's been for this team right now. I mentioned the glue guy. He does a little bit of this some nights, a little bit of this another night, and kind of fills in the gaps. I think he's really, really helped out. And then, of course, the dude is so strong for his size. We saw moments tonight, right, where he just takes it right to the basket when they need a bucket. Definitely has got something. Plus, the dude's a champion. He's quiet. He doesn't, have any off the court drama, and he loves Sacramento. And I know I keep saying that. I'm going to keep pushing that point home. The dude loves Sacramento, and that's the most important part. And that's kind of another reason why I think I'm willing to hold on to him, unless, like you said, something huge that you just can't say no to becomes available. I think I'm willing to hold on to him to the end of the season and then say, okay, look, we're going to have all this cap space. We can bring in another huge guy if we want. And we'll talk about that here in the next section. I want to go over everybody that's available here in the upcoming offseason. But then it's like Harrison Barnes probably wants to re-sign. He's happy in Sacramento. He likes this team. He likes where he's playing. He's probably going to get a good deal. It's probably going to be his last deal. And they're finally winning basketball games for a culture that he's helped create and change. So that just goes to show right there.
An even better situation for Sacramento. They make the playoffs. Like you said, he wants to re-sign, but he also sees the opportunity for the Kings to get even better. So he re-signs at a discount, and they use the money to sign somebody else that helps him even more. I mean, I think that you're just riding this wave right now if you're Sacramento.
So back to Harrison Barnes here. Stats are whatever you make of them, right? I can make this a little bit smaller so you guys can probably see this. You can't see the points in the corner there, huh? But basically what I want to do here is just take a look. Oh, I'm going to fix this so you can see. Bam. Okay. So take a look here. This is Harrison Barnes' career stats. Obviously, the right corner is your points per game, which is what everyone really cares about. But there's so many other things that don't really show up in here. Now, I want you to look at the first 4 years of his career with Golden State, a really good basketball team. They win a title. They set the record for, most wins in a regular season. He's averaging 9, 10, 11 points a game. They're winning basketball games. Then he goes to Dallas. He's crap. I mean, he's good, but the team is crap, right? Then he jumps up to 19, 18, 16, 17 points a game. You look at his time in Sacramento here, right? He's 14, 16 points a game. Then you look down at this year, 13 points a game. Maybe Harrison Barnes isn't meant to be that, top scorer on a good basketball team. And I think that's kind of what you're seeing here, right? Mike Brown took over as coach in the offseason. The dude has coached the Golden State Warriors. I've seen a ton of articles this week about how the Kings play style has changed and is mimicking the Warriors. I saw guys saying that they stole some of our plays, something like that. So seeing Harrison Barnes kind of, I don't want to say regress, but, kind of revert back to where he was playing with a really, really good Golden State basketball team kind of makes sense here, that the wins are starting to pile up and they're not expecting 7 threes a game from Harrison Barnes, because honestly, Calvin, this team is not a good basketball team when Harrison Barnes is shooting 7 to 10 threes a game. They're just not.
No, well, I mean, they've got, again, a lot of capable shooters and scorers around him on this team. So yes, not asking him to do too much. If I'm going to actually say something nice about Luke Walton, in his defense, he didn't have many other people on the team that were good three-point shooters. So asking Harrison to shoot more threes probably made sense at the time. But this team, the way this team is built, you mentioned the comparisons to the Golden State Warriors. Obviously, with Mike Brown coaching this team, you'd expect to see some of those things. It's just a much, much better fit, both for Harrison and for the Kings right now. And it's producing on the court. They're winning games.
If you're Monty McNair and you're like, okay, I think I need to pick up more shooters for this team, and Luke's like, no, we're good, man. We're just going to have Harrison Barnes shoot the ball 7 times. What are you thinking if you're Monty? Are you just kind of like, okay, we'll do it your way and see what happens. And then obviously he's fired, or like, what are you thinking? That couldn't have been Monty. We know Monty came from Houston, where they love to shoot the three ball. So I had to think, at least in the back of his mind, that when he got here to Sacramento, his like number one priority was like, we need shooters and we need rebounders.
Yeah, I mean, I go back to what I said, I don't know how many shows ago or whatever it was, but Luke Walton wasn't Monty McNair's coach. I think he said all the right things and stuck with him, right? You know, because you want continuity within an organization. One of the ways that you change culture for the good is not to just be firing your head coach every year and starting fresh, which the Kings did for a little while. But that was not Monty's guy. I think he had the vision for what this team was going to look like all along, including what the head coach was going to look like. And now that he's got a guy that I think he trusts, again, you'll see much more of or maybe you won't see it, but behind the scenes, there will be much more of a two-way working relationship between the front office and the head coach to build the team completely. Luke Walton did his best. You know, I see Ivan in there saying he wasn't the problem. Probably not, but I don't think he necessarily helped either.
He was the problem, man.
I didn't think that he was the right fit for the team when they hired him, and it didn't work out, unfortunately, for the Kings and for Luke. But it's working now, and I think that's a lot of the reason for that is because Monty, saw the blueprint to build this team, and he found the right coach to make it all work.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. He basically Monty built that Rockets team to compete against Mike Brown's Golden State Warriors. So he's definitely had his eyes on Coach Brown, that style of play, and what they did for a really, really long time. So. Dude, I'm just so excited, man. I am so excited. Shout out to RP here. I see you in the chat. Bryce, I think I said hi to you already. Neil's here. We got Key Kings, David, Marcus, Ivan. Welcome in, everybody. Just my opinion. Lee, welcome in. Thank you guys for joining us. Hopefully you're having a wonderful Saturday. Sebastian, I think I said hi to you already. Progressive G. Luke was a huge problem, and that problem is called losing. I couldn't agree more, Calvin. Shout out to my guy Eric here. Welcome in, everybody. Welcome. Okay. Jeff the Lefty's here too. Okay, let's move on here. You know, I could bash Luke Walton all day long. And if you guys got time, I'll continue to do that. But the only positive thing I can say about Luke Walton is his dad's a cool guy. Honestly, that's what I got. Bad basketball player, bad head coach. I don't know him as a person, so I can't say he's a bad person, but not a good coach for the Sacramento Kings. So I'll definitely throw that in there. Gilbert, what is up? All right. Dude, I might as well play this real quick since we got some new people joining in. Enjoy, and if you hate it, I'm sorry.
The Kings won, yeah. Oh yeah, the Kings won, yeah. The Sacramento Kings, oh yeah, the Kings won, yeah. Fox is so fast. Sabonis is so strong, yeah. Coach Mike is so smart, yeah. They are the playoff bound, yeah.
All right, Calvin. So, I think we can all agree here that Fox is so fast, right? He played 28 minutes tonight, 14 points. We've been wondering what happened to him over the past couple games, right? Because he seemed different. People were debating on whether it was an injury or what was going on. We finally heard today on the broadcast that he was a little under the weather. They didn't really, expand on that, so I have no idea what's wrong with him. Obviously, he's on the court. He doesn't appear to be puking. I haven't seen him get like fluids or anything like that. And obviously, it's probably not COVID if he's still out there. So kind of weird. But give me your thoughts on De'Aaron Fox. It's good to see him play decent tonight, and I say decent. 14 points, 4 assists, 6 rebounds, and only 28 minutes. The Kings win, which I'm always happy about, and that's the most important thing. But let's talk about Fox for a little bit.
Well, first of all, I want to give a shout out to Neil for the added Island Boys lyrics there. Luke Walton is so bad, yeah, love it. As far as De'Aaron Fox goes, look, they didn't need him tonight. He's under the weather, as we learned. I have no idea how much that's actually affecting him. But I think the good news is he's going to be fine, right? And he'll return back to his normal self at some point. I'm not a conspiracy theory guy, Barry, but who was the person that we heard say for the first time that Fox is feeling not well? Katie Christensen, who has sounded very sick for quite some time now. So she might be the person to blame.
Wait, she's sick?
She was.
What do you mean?
You didn't hear her on the broadcast over the past couple of weeks? She sounded very sick.
Okay. Interesting.
And she is the one that said De'Aaron Fox is under the weather. I haven't heard anybody else say that.
So you're blaming Katie Christensen for this.
I'm just saying. Just saying.
Interesting. Okay. Well, Katie, I don't have anything negative to say about Katie, but if she's getting players sick, I'm not happy about that. Make her put a mask on or something. I don't know how to fix that. But anyways, it's good to see Fox bouncing back here. And like we do say, the most important thing, right, is the Kings are getting some W's here. It was tough going on that little 3-game losing streak. So they're doing much better now. Yeah, Key Kings throws out Trey Lyles was in here as well. So maybe Katie's, maybe they need to like put her in a separate locker room or something. But hey, hopefully we don't have a bug going around. That's all I can say. Guys are still playing. They're on the court. We're winning basketball games. Katie in those 4 long positions.
That's good.
Yeah. So anyways, anything else you want to mention about De'Aaron Fox? Like, the dude has looked incredible this year. The mid-range shooting is much improved. He looks so comfortable out there. It looks like the game is slowed down for him. He's shooting free throws better. He's shooting better from the 3-point line. His defense seems very, very much improved without the rim protector that we all keep screaming for. So any last things you want to say about De'Aaron Fox? Only positive things, Calvin.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think I only have positive things to say about De'Aaron Fox this year. He's been all-star good for them. Yes, the numbers have dropped off a little bit. As of late, maybe that's corresponds with him being sick or whatever the case may be. I also think that the style of offense this team plays, you're going to see, this is the second game in a row. They had all 5 starters in double figures, so it's equal opportunity. But his ability to be great in the clutch when they've really needed him in close games, that's his role on this team. He is, I think, their best player, but he's the type of guy that they might not need to win every game, but when it comes down to it and you've got to get a basket, you want the ball in his hands because, like he said, he can get any shot he wants at any time. And now he's shooting better from both the 3-point line and the free throw line. So he's added to his game. I think what's also really important is you mentioned the defense. That's the one thing that we kept screaming about all last season was, when is this guy going to look like what he should on
He's got
defense?
all the tools.
And he finally does. Yes, he finally does. And more importantly, even when he doesn't have these huge offensive games, he's still playing really, really hard on the defensive end. That's the hallmark of a good team. You can always affect the game on defense, even when your shot isn't falling. And he should never not stand out defensively for this team. So that's an incredibly important takeaway for me.
Yeah, and he just looks so much more confident out there. Confidence is key, right? Fake it till you make it. He doesn't need to fake it anymore. He has made it. So De'Aaron Fox is looking much better. I expect to see a big scoring output from him in one of these games because I think he hasn't really needed to be that guy, but he can definitely still do it. So we will definitely see what happens. Calvin, looks like your sparring opponent has finally shown up here in the chat. Hey,
it's about time, man. Yeah, of course I missed you.
All right, moving on here. I want to talk about Kevin Huerter. I mentioned this is the first game he's hit a 3 in the past 3 games. I thought it was huge for him. We all say shoot or shoot, right? And you got to keep shooting. The dude started out the year incredibly, shooting so incredibly well from 3-point range, over 50%. I see somebody here in the chat, PK, says Kevin Huerter's defense is so underrated as well. I have to agree with that also. The dude, just seems to be in the right place at the right time all the time. He's lanky. He gets his hands out in passing lanes, stuff like that. So I love everything that I've seen out of Kevin Huerter. Obviously, only 12 points for him tonight. And I say only because we got used to him having 20 plus points early on in the season. Where are you at on Kevin Huerter right now? And any new nicknames for James Ham Jr.?
Barry, you know me, I'm not really a good nickname guy, so I'm going to pass on that one, but I'll leave that to you. You're really good at it. As far as Kevin goes, I mean, look, he got off to such an amazing start, and I mean, NBA record amazing start. Steph Curry, the greatest shooter of all time, 45% from three on 7 3-point attempts per game. That's the best mark in NBA history. He was obliterating that. He was up to like 52%. So of course you expect him to kind of come back down to earth a little bit. Teams, I think, are game planning for him more too, so he's not getting as many opportunities or open looks. But like you said, just as we talked about a second ago with De'Aaron Fox, finding ways to affect the game even when your strongest attribute is either taken away from you or it's just not working on that particular day. He's getting to the basket. He's making plays for others. He can test shots really well. He's a good team defender. He gets beat, I think, a handful of times per game, but his recovery and his ability to contest shots, especially at the rim, as well as a rebounder for a guard of his size. Like he still puts his imprint on games in a lot of different areas. And that's how you win games as a team. You have to collectively find a way to affect the game in a lot of different ways, especially if you're a three-point shooter and you're not knocking down three-point shots.
Yep. And actually, I have to make a correction here. Gilbert called me out here in the chat. Gilbert, you are correct. He did make a 3 in the last game, missed 3s in the 2 games before that. So this is 2 consecutive games now where he's hit 1 3 each game. The prior 2 games, he had missed all his 3-point attempts. So definitely back on track. And thank you, Gilbert. I appreciate you for keeping me in the right. So appreciate that. I'm just so happy to have Kevin Huerter on this team. This was not expected. During the offseason, we wanted to make big moves. We wanted to make trades, bring in big pieces. I was a little uncertain about this move at the beginning, right? I heard there was a future protected first-round pick in there. I'm a little hesitant to trade, first-round picks for a team that's been bad for so long, unless it's for like an all-star or some guy. Kevin Huerter's been exactly what this team has needed. He's played good defense. He's shot the ball well. He's spaced the floor, and he's just been available. So I think definitely that was a huge pickup for the Sacramento Kings. So, I got no problems with Kevin Huerter. I think the dude has played phenomenal. All right, moving on here to the last of the 5 starters. Many people would say the king of the night. I thought he definitely had an incredible game. Maybe he gets the game ball to help boost his confidence. But Keegan Murray, 28 minutes tonight, sets a new career high with 23 points, 8 of 15 from the field, 3 of 8 from three-point range. Also has a rebound, has an assist, and a couple steals in this game as well. Calvin, this is Keegan Murray's, I guess, coming out party, or he's back. Right? We've been concerned about him. There's been people talking about benching him, all that stuff. But Keegan Murray's back, dude. He's stroking threes. The shot's looking great. The elbow is above the eyeball, as Katie says. Dude, just shower me with love with Keegan Murray. Go for it.
Well, you got to feel good for him, right? I mean, any player that's struggling, you want to see on your team, you want to see them have a bounce back game. The efficiency is still not there yet. I mean, in terms of the 3-point shot, he was shooting it at such a high clip to start the season. He hasn't gotten back to that level yet, but to have some shots go through tonight, it's got to be a big confidence booster for him. And again, I'm looking at the big picture, right? We heard Mike Brown talk a lot about how he needs to be more aggressive, both offensively and defensively, go up and attack the rim. I think he still has a lot of work to do in terms of his finishing ability. There were a couple of plays tonight he could have had a very easy and one, in my opinion, didn't convert on it. He also took a really, really tough, weird reverse layup under the rim where he didn't use the backboard think he could have had a much easier chance, or at least looked a lot better doing it if he had gone to the classic reverse off the backboard. So those are things I would continue to work on if I was him. But really, really good at positioning himself off the ball defensively, had a bunch of steals tonight, seems to be quicker in getting to the right spot than he was earlier on in the year. And again, those are things that I think come with time, practice, and confidence. And he seems to be gaining a little bit more of that back. So if he continues to hit 3-point shots, look out. Threegan, as you like to call him, might be back for good.
Threegan. I love that nickname, dude. Threegan. I think he's finally switched back. I know he was playing college ball for his brother, trying to get him into the NBA draft. So they finally switched back, and you could tell Keegan or Keegan Murray is back for real. We got a little bit of a debate breaking out here in the chat between who has better hair, Mo, Katie, or Calvin. So if you guys got any thoughts on that, go ahead and drop that here in the chat. 75. We got about 75 people watching. We get a few more likes. Maybe Calvin will let the hair down for you guys. But that is an interesting debate there. Calvin, I miss my long hair sometimes. I don't miss it when I'm sleeping, when I'm showering, when I'm being athletic, or any other time. But there are certain times. I know we were watching, what was it, 2 Kings games ago? They were showing the highlights from Sabonis' first game in Sacramento. You and I were sitting right behind the bench, so we were all in the highlights. And I had my long hair, so I definitely miss that sometimes. Okay, wow. We really unraveled a lot here. We talked about all 5 starters. We talked about the style of play. Anybody here that really stood out to you on the bench today? I know we had 10 points for Metu. We've given him his flowers. We talked a little bit about Malik Monk. Real quick, I'm just going to put it out here into the world. If you go on Bovada right now, not financial advice. If you go on Bovada right now, Malik Monk is plus 6,000 on the 6th Man of the Year award. I'm thinking about putting 100 or maybe a couple hundred down on that. You bet 100, you win 6,000 if you win 6 man. That's pretty incredible. But Calvin, anything you want to talk about as far as bench Kings, any of that stuff?
Well, yeah, I mean, we talked, like you said, about Metu. I still can't say enough good things about how he's kind of transformed himself from the totally wild player that we saw, probably without any, leash or consequences, just throwing up threes like they were, candy. He's such a different player now, plays much more within the system, much more within himself, and lets the game come to him. And I think his playmaking, they use him the same way that they use Sabonis. His ability to find guys making backdoor cuts, that's a part of his game that I didn't really think was existent at all. So kudos to Mike Brown for kind of bringing that out of him. And yeah, Malik Monk, as you mentioned, I think it's a good bet right now. He's definitely going to be in the conversation for 6th Man of the Year if he keeps playing this way. The passes, him and Metu seem to have a really, really great connection on the fast break. He's always looking for him at the rim. I love me some Davion, even though he didn't really get much going offensively tonight. All his threes, man, they just rattle around the rim. They go halfway down and out every single time. It amazes me that he doesn't get a few more of those to roll in. But I think the team defense, again, from both the starters and the bench, it was just really good tonight. Terrence Davis was definitely a part of that, as he's been in many games this season. And the Kings bench has been a huge, huge strength for them all year long. So if they're going to continue to win games, they're going to have great performances like this from everybody, not just Malik Monk or Metu or Trey Lyles. It's got to be a collective unit.
Definitely. What's up, Gilbert? The Clippers played like trash today, and the Kings played well, so Kings win. Mike Brown, Coach of the Year. The odds are pretty good on that. I think they're plus 2,000 or something like that. Bryce says I put 20 on Mike Brown, Coach of the Year at the beginning of the season to pay out 1,500. Congratulations, Bryce. That's looking like a pretty good bet. I mean, I'm looking here at the standings. I don't really know who else would win Coach of the Year. I mean, if the Kings continue to play this well, I mean, you could maybe talk about the coach of the Cavs, or maybe the Pelicans. But the Kings are looking pretty good here. Shout out to Big John here. PK says Davis is a bit of a disappointment. He should be better. I don't know. Davis has been hit or miss, but he's definitely been there on the defensive end of the floor, and we've seen him have some really, really big, offensive outputs. Calvin, any thoughts on Terrence Davis?
Well, I mean, he should be better. I don't know.
It's hard to quantify that, right?
How to go with that.
Like,
yeah,
better
how to
at
quantify
what?
That. He should be more consistent, maybe. Like, you would like to see him average a more consistent total in points per game, I guess. But again, you got to look at his role on this team. Sometimes he plays close to 30 minutes. Sometimes he plays 15 minutes. It's hard to be consistent in terms of scoring when you're so sporadic in the opportunities that you get. But one thing that he is really consistent with is defensive intensity. Another really good on-ball defender. Usually grabs at least one steal a game, and he's super athletic, right? Attacking the rim. When he gets his three-point shot to fall, it's just an added bonus for the Kings that makes them that much more difficult to deal with. He's not a starter. So, I think you have to be really happy with what you get out of Terrence Davis right now.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Neil says I should grow my hair back because that's my trademark. Maybe I'll get a hat with some hair on it or something like that. That's crazy, Calvin. I had long hair for 1 year of my entire life, and apparently that's my trademark now, which is wild. Shout out to Always Smile in the Sun. Seriously, though, the Kings fans kind of stuck out to me at this game. Nice representation of Kings at the game. I couldn't agree more. The Kings fans were huge. They were huge at this game. We heard chants of light the beam in Staples or Crypto, whatever the hell the place is called now. But that is not something you heard in the past 10 plus years as any Sacramento Kings chant anywhere else other than Golden One Center. I mean, we had the Serbians for a while in some of the Midwest games, stuff like that, but not in LA. So I thought that was definitely huge. Kings fans are starting to come out of all the different cracks. Calvin, I saw someone earlier in the stream, I think it was Charlie, said we should do a pregame show because we have so much competition now in postgame shows. But it's like, dude, when we started doing this, we were the only one. Deuce and Mo started doing it. It was just us two. We're going to do this show no matter if the Kings are good or if they're bad. We love you guys. We love hanging out, and we love talking about the Sacramento Kings. So, as the Kings get good, just so you know, there's going to be more content out there. There's going to be more people thinking, I can do this. I want to do this. And, I'm going to support as many of them as I can. But, just to let you guys know, when this Kings team gets better, there's going to be a lot more Kings fans out there. Remember the real ones. That's all I got to say.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We would love to do like 2 or 3 shows a day on this channel, covering the Kings before the game, after the game, on off days. Of course, we want to talk about them all the time. But unlike a lot of the other shows or YouTube channels, we've got day jobs. So it's hard for us to get on here. If you guys want to see us more, again, like Barry says, like the video, subscribe to the channel, show it to your friends, tell all your Kings friends about us. If we get this out to more people, we'll be more and more available for you guys. Absolutely.
All right, Calvin, Kevin Huerter, 3-point competition. You think he's going to be in?
I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say. I'm not really even sure how they pick the guys for the 3-point shootout. Is it an actual equation? Like you have to shoot you have to be ranked a certain number in 3-point percentage or something.
You got to be
like
off that weekend, man. You just got to be available, I think, at this point. What do you think is more likely to happen?
See him in it. I think he deserves it so far.
What do you think is more likely to happen? Kevin Huerter wins the 3-point competition, Malik Monk wins 6th Man of the Year, or Mike Brown wins Coach of the Year? What do you think is more likely?
I still think right now it's more likely for Mike Brown to win Coach of the Year. For the same reason as I said before, I think that this is a complete team. Obviously Malik Monk is going to have his individual moments. He might make a good case for 6th Man of the Year, but it's an equal opportunity offense. Some guys are going to have big nights one night. Other guys are going to have big nights another night. It translates into team success. And if the Kings are avoid the play-in tournament altogether and actually make the playoffs as a 6th seed or better, I think it's more likely that Mike Brown gets the recognition for that and wins Coach of the Year.
Shout out to Brendan here. How could you not love Terrence Davis? Jesus says, I call Kevin Huerter. Interesting. I mean, I think we've all kind of made that joke a little bit here. Progressive G says, do you think Holmes should get more run? He looked pretty decent today. Calvin? And then he says he can make you tap out again.
He probably can. I haven't really practiced martial arts in a very long time, so I think I could make him tap out on the basketball court, though. So, yeah, we could trade some moves for sure. But, man, should he get more minutes? I don't know. Probably not. Like, I think that Mike Brenn's dialed in the rotation pretty well. I trust him. I think he knows the team. So, I don't know. That's a tough call.
Progressive G, I appreciate your support on the hair length. Shout out to Christy here. Shout out to Jim NV. Thank you. I have some dope gear. I appreciate you. Gotta be a good Kings fan. Have some fresh gear here. Have some fresh gear. The play-in tournament is such a joke. That's funny. All right, let's move on here. We got a lot more to talk about. We're an hour here into the stream already. Just about time. You know what time it is, Calvin?
The Kings won, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, the Kings won, yeah. The Sacramento Kings, oh, yeah, the Kings won, yeah. Fox is so fast. Sabonis is so strong, yeah. Coach Mike is so smart, yeah. They are the playoff bound, yeah.
I'm going to, people are just going to leave this channel because I play the video too many times. But, hey, it's working, dude. When I play that video, they win. They win games. So I don't even know. Edward says the team is getting better. I couldn't agree more. NV says, Barry and Calvin, you think we will have a better record than the Lakers? I think so. Cal. What do you think? They're playing much better. Don't break my heart, Calvin.
Team, man. No, I'm going to agree with you. I think that the Kings will have finished with a better record than the Lakers. I mean, the Lakers dug themselves a really, really deep hole to start the season, right? And as we know, all it takes is one rolled ankle or one strained adductor muscle from LeBron James or Anthony Davis, and the Lakers pretty much fizzle away, right? So, however, on the other side of that, Anthony Davis is playing like the Anthony Davis of old lately. And it's more than just a 2 or 3 game sample. The guy's been killing it. So if they're healthy, they're for sure a difficult team to deal with. But yes, I do think that the Kings will finish with a better record overall.
Yeah, I agree with that. So the Kings, I guess going into this game, they were officially 4th in NBA in pace. I saw somebody say they were number 2 in offense behind the Celtics. Which is quite strange because I think the Celtics were number 1 in defense last year, right? But, what are your thoughts on this play style? I think it's been a decent amount of games, over 20 games now, right, where we kind of know what their style is, what they're trying to do. On the last podcast, we talked about how it's so cool that they're able to just kind of pull Sabonis out and put in a guy like Metu that's not Sabonis, but still kind of run the same system and have a lot of the same things happen. So they've kind of established their system. They're playing very, very fast, up-tempo offense. They get a lot of shots. They run. We saw the points in the paint domination tonight. Calvin, can you just give me your overall thoughts on, what kind of system you think the Kings are running here? Do you see any more tweaks that are going to happen, or they pretty much have the system in stone and they're just going to continually get better and better as they play more and more in that style?
And I don't see them making any major changes to the system. It's clearly working. Again, like you just said, I think it's more about fine-tuning it and just getting better and better every game. The assist to turnover ratio, those are very critical numbers that I would keep an eye on as the season progresses. If they have games like they did today, you're going to see a lot of these 120-point plus games, and it's going to be hard for teams to keep pace with them. It's all about, continuing to build the chemistry with everyone on this team so that they can perform this difficult system, which shares the ball with a lot of guys. It's very little isolation, and it requires a lot of communication and trust, both offensively and defensively. If they continue to build on those things, this is going to be a team that is here to stay for the rest of the year, I think.
Bryce says, I just got a Fox and a Monk jersey. Bryce, I'm still waiting on my Monk jersey. I ordered it when the new jerseys came out. No notice from Fanatics, no updates, no nothing. How long, Calvin, you think it's gonna be until I get this jersey? Any ideas?
Oh man, I don't
crazy.
know. It's what it's like living. I mean, you've been here a lot longer than I have, so you know what it's like trying to order things from the mainland and getting them shipped here. It's your guess is as good as mine. That's all I'll say.
This is how I feel.
I've ordered things that never came before.
This is how I feel.
So.
This is how I feel.
It's ridiculous. It's obvious what's being done out here. It's on a nightly basis. I hope the world can see now what's really going on out here because it's getting ridiculous.
It's getting ridiculous, man. It is getting ridiculous. Shout out to Lane. Welcome in, Lane. Hawaii sucks. You know it. Yeah, it sucks, Lane, how it's really, really warm, and I had to cut my hike in the valley short this morning to come watch the Kings game, and I'm probably going to go to the beach after this and then maybe get some Mai Tais at happy hour. So Hawaii sucks.
We're going to cut this stream short because
Hawaii
I have
sucks.
to go up for an engagement party on a boat for a sunset cruise and also drink some Mai Tais. So, yeah, it's a rough life we live out here.
Poor Calvin. Poor Calvin. Okay, so we got what, 20 minutes left. So let's kind of work through the rest of this. We got to talk about the Bulls. We got to talk about this 6-game road trip that's coming up. I want to talk real quick before we jump into those. I want to talk about the offseason. I know it's a little early, but hey, I'm bringing it up. But before we get there, Calvin, I got an interesting question for you. I know you're a little bit biased on this because you're a Michigan guy. Shout out to Michigan. I see you got the chain on. You got the shirt on. You're happy.
On today. I got the shirt. I'm ready to go, baby. Big Ten championship, 20 minutes.
Shout out to Lane. Lane, we appreciate the super chat. That will pay for half of my tip on my Mai Tai. So thank you, Lane. Appreciate that. But here's the question, and I want to hear from all you guys in the chat. We got 70 people in here. I think this is a really, really important question. And Calvin, if you need a couple minutes to think about it, feel free. But I just want to compare here. So this last time this Kings team was good, I was in high school, and they had I guess you could say a big three of Bibby, Peja, and Weber, right? You could throw Vlade in there. You could say Doug Christie. Obviously, all those other people helped out, right? We got a new big three. Fox, Huerter, Sabonis. Who wins? Bibby, Peja, Weber, Fox, Huerter, Sabonis.
Oh, Fox, Huerter, and Sabonis win. I mean, first of all, Weber's the best player out of those three from the older group, and he was much diminished from what his peak was at the time he came to Sacramento. Still a really good player, but much diminished from what he was. Bibby can't guard De'Aaron Fox. Vlade can't guard Sabonis. I don't think it's close. Wow.
Okay. I mean, I see Sean says Fox, Sabonis, and Huerter. I agree. That's exciting, man. That is really, really exciting. Really, really exciting. Matthew, yes, we did win today. Not by 53 points, but almost 35. So great win for the Sacramento Kings. But that's an interesting question. Fox, Huerter, Sabonis, Bibby, Peja, Weber. I think you're right. I think the players are probably better currently. The system might have been better. The role players in the past.
You're right. But I'm mistaken. I thought you were putting Vlade in there. But Peja, Weber, and Bibby, I think is definitely no contest.
Oh, so you're taking Bibby now. You're flip-flopping.
No. I'm still sticking with Fox. I think that,
okay. Fox, Huerter, Sabonis.
I was thinking it was Weber and Vlade for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe because I heard you say Vlade's name at the end there. But, yeah, I don't think that the new school group, too good at shooting and too quick. There's no way that they stop them from scoring, the old school group.
I agree. Okay, moving on here. Last subject before we jump into the next couple games. And I want to talk just quickly a little bit. We're going to be talking about the offseason for months, right? Absolute months. But just real quick here, I want to just take a pause here and just look at everything and say, okay, we're the Kings. We're 12-9. We're currently the 5th seed. I think we agree right now. We don't want to mess up chemistry. We don't want to make like a big blockbuster move or anything like that. But at the same time, I think it's good to always look ahead to the offseason, especially if you're a general manager, you're working out contracts, stuff like that. You got to figure out what the path is. I think we can both agree that this team is better this year than it's been, right? So they're definitely improving. They have something to build off of. Now they're starting to win some basketball games. Maybe it makes the owner more willing to open up his pocketbook. Maybe it makes fans more exciting. Maybe it puts some pressure on the Kings that they have to put a better product on the court. But we have some cap space available this offseason. Harrison Barnes is expiring. We talked a little bit about that. But the Kings are going to have some money to spend. So I just kind of want to go over some of the top free agents that could potentially be available this offseason and whether it would be worth it for the Kings to pick up any of these guys. But before we do that, Calvin, just real quick, I want to kind of hear what your thoughts are going into the offseason. If you're the GM, what is really in your mind? If, let's say, the Kings, you just extrapolate out the rest of this season, the Kings, make the playoffs, they lose in the first round, and they're trying to build off of it. Are you just sitting back and you're like, okay, I just got to keep the band together. Everyone's young. They're going to get better. They're going to get better. Or are you going to be aggressive in free agency? Because the beauty of free agency, which something the Kings have not benefited from for a really long time, is that you don't really have to give up much to bring in another guy. It's not like a trade where you have to give up major pieces. It's literally, if you have the cap space, you can find a guy that you feel like fits your team and just bring him right in without giving up anything. So just overall, before we even get into any of these guys, can you give me kind of what your thought process would be if you're a GM going into the offseason with this roster?
Well, I think you're, again, to use a phrase I used earlier, sort of playing with house money a little bit. Like, I think you're both aggressive and very happy with what you've got. So you're willing to take risks, or not necessarily a risk, but you're willing to go out and offer some big time money that you haven't been able to do in the past to some guys, because if you get them, great. If not, you still have this team that performed really, really well as a team, and it has a lot of guys that are really young and you should be able to keep together for a bunch of years, and they continue to get better and grow, like you said, right? I mean, you're in a really, really good situation, I think, if you're Monty McNair. Not only did you build the team the right way, you got the right type of players and the right coaching staff here. They worked really hard. They became a better team. They made the playoffs. They're young. And now you still have this opportunity that you haven't had in years past, where you can spend some money in free agency and continue to get better, continue to have more really tough competition at individual positions in training camp next year because you added even more talent. Like, I think it's a win-win situation, a dream situation, sort of, if you're a GM, being able to have a team that is good, competitive, young, has a good head coach, and you have money to spend. Like, it doesn't get much better than that.
All right, so let's just take a look at some of these guys. I just, we can go through this pretty quick. You can just give me a yay or nay on whether you're in or not in on these guys. The first one on this list is James Harden. He has the ability to opt out of his deal with the Philadelphia 76ers. Does Harden have any possibility or any advantage joining Sacramento?
There are certainly advantages. I mean, he's James Harden for a reason. I probably wouldn't be too aggressive if I'm Sacramento going after him, just because it's going to require a lot of money. He's a much older player than a lot of these guys. He hasn't really been healthy down the stretch of seasons in recent years. I think you would overspend, perhaps, even though he could be really productive. You would overspend a little bit on a guy like James Harden if you were going to sign him.
Yeah, I agree. Progressive G, Kevin Durant's not a free agent, so we'd have to give up quite a bit for him. We're just going over free agents right now. We'll definitely do some trade deadline stuff as well. So yeah, I think I agree with you. I'm probably going to pass on Harden. He's too pricey, too pricey. Jeremy Grant, he's been balling out this year for the Trailblazers, but he could become a free agent if he does opt out. What are your thoughts on Jeremy Grant? Could he be that 4 or potentially that 5 for the Kings? I know you love this guy, so give me your thoughts on Jeremy Grant.
I do like Jeremy Grant. I would definitely consider offering him, a pretty reasonable contract for exactly what you just mentioned. I mean, they don't really have a power forward right now. They have guys who they've been playing in the position, and guys who, as a group, if you look down the list of the roster, collectively, they've done some good things at that spot. But if you could grab a guy that solidifies that position, keeps Sabonis playing the same role that he has currently, and then you have the option to, maybe Keegan Murray continues to get better, improves in the offseason, he becomes your new starting small forward. That's, something to think about, definitely.
Yeah, I like Jeremy Grant a lot. I'm interested to see what happens. I really am. And, I just want to throw it out there. The cool thing about Harrison Barnes is that, you can re-sign somebody and then you can sign somebody and you can re-sign Harrison Barnes and go over the salary cap to bring him back because he's already been with the Kings. I think he's got that relationship with Sacramento as well. If he wants to stay, he'd probably wait a little bit for them to bring in maybe a guy like Jeremy Grant and still be able to re-sign Harrison Barnes. Here's a quick one, Calvin. Yes or no? Kyrie Irving?
Nope. Keep it rolling. Keep it moving, as they say on Jalen and Jacoby.
We talk about this guy a lot. Miles Turner. Potentially a free agent at the end of the year. I've heard that the owner of the Pacers is a big Miles Turner fan, so potentially they're going to be offering him a max contract. We have seen him combined with Sabonis in the past, and they had some success. But, he's a rim protector. He can shoot the 3 ball. Could potentially be available and does have some chemistry with Sabonis. So where are you at on Miles Turner?
I've said this for a long time, going back to the trade deadline last year. I like Miles Turner a lot as a player. I think he would fit well on the team. I don't know how interested he would be to come play that same role again next to Domantas Sabonis. And I don't think I would offer him a max contract. So in a bidding war for Miles Turner, again, I think you could perhaps overspend. He is a great rim protector. He shoots the 3 ball really well for a stretch big man. But max contract player, I don't think that's reasonable for me at least. So I would probably err on the side of caution in doing a free agency bidding war with other teams over Miles Turner.
Yeah. If it's me, I'm honestly going to evaluate what it costs to get him. And then I'm probably going to have a guy like Sabonis involved in this conversation and say, Sabonis, you already have a relationship with Miles Turner. Do you think it would work? Obviously, you've played with him in the past. You played with this current lineup. Do you like what we're building, what we're doing? Obviously, the goal is to make Sabonis re-sign, but I think Sabonis has probably got the inside track on Miles Turner and could probably give the Kings ownership, management, coaching staff a really, really good idea of what to expect with both of those guys. So I think I would definitely want to have Sabonis in any of those conversations. Next up, the Wizards. Well, they doubled down on Porzingis and Kyle Kuzma. Both of these guys could be available. We've talked about Kuzma in the past. He got traded to Sacramento before it was not accepted, I guess. I don't even know how to put that right. And then Porzingis, who the Knicks had offered him for De'Aaron Fox back in the day, and we said no. I'm a big Porzingis fan. My biggest problem with him is that he can't stay healthy. And then I worry about Kuzma on the defensive end of the floor. What are your thoughts on Kuzma, Porzingis, and could either of these guys be an option for the Kings at the 4?
Porzingis and Sabonis together would be very interesting. I wonder how much that would affect or change the offensive system that Mike Brown is putting in place right now. Porzingis is playing really, really well this year, and we are kind of reminded of what he was like before he had a bunch of those major injuries. There's a reason why they call him the unicorn, right? It's intriguing, but I would probably stay away from it. Again, I think you're probably going to have to dump a lot of money on him for a guy that you don't know, or questioning how many healthy games he's going to be available for every year. And again, what would it do to the system? Kuzma is more interesting to me. I think he fits the style of play a lot better. I've been very impressed with how he's kind of stepped up, especially early on this year with Bradley Beal being out, he really carried a lot of the scoring load for them. He's become a better shooter, not as consistent maybe as you would like him to be. And yes, you have questions about him defensively as well. But again, Mike Brown's a really good defensive coach. Maybe he could help in that area. I'm much more intrigued about Kyle Kuzma than I am Porzingis. But I don't think that I'm all in on either one of these guys.
Shout out to Brian here. Brian says, Kings are rolling. Quit trying to fix what's not broken. Brian, we're not trying to fix anything. We're talking
about this season.
Fast forward to the offseason. If the Kings have some salary cap space, would you potentially want to sign any of these guys that could be available and help improve this team? So just to give some background for you, Brian, we are not trying to fix anything. We're happy with where the team's at right now. We're talking about the offseason.
Yes.
Okay, next up, centers on the move. This is Vucevic. They're also talking about Jakob Poeltl here. We've kind of talked about both of them here in the past. Just give me quick thoughts, Calvin, because we got to keep rolling here.
I would not go after Vucevic in free agency. Again, I think it's going to cost you a lot of money, and it definitely slows down and changes the style of play, adding him into this system. So I stay away from that one.
All right, next up, Chris Middleton. He is currently back, killed it last night. I think he had 16 or 17 points for the Bucks, and he could potentially be available. Would you make a move for Chris Middleton, or he's just not a position you're looking to fill right now?
Oh, I would definitely go after Chris Middleton. A great two-way player that's a wing, a guy that I think Keegan Murray reminds me of in a lot of ways. He'd be a really good person to learn from. I think you add Chris Middleton onto this team, that would help them a lot. I think it's very unrealistic that you get him, and it's probably, again, going to cost you a lot of money, but this is definitely somebody that I would be in negotiation with and try to work something out. I think he's absolutely worth grabbing if possible.
Yeah, definitely a long shot here, right? The dude's 31 years old already. He'd be opting out of $40 million next season, so he would have to be getting a monster contract to make it worth his while. I do not see him leaving Milwaukee, but you're right. A dude with a championship pedigree, great defender, great shooter. Yes, he's dealing with an injury. He just came back now, but I think this is probably in the unrealistic category is where I would throw it.
Yeah.
Draymond Green, Calvin. I cannot wait to hear what you got to say about Draymond Green. But hey, he hasn't punched anybody in the face in a couple weeks that we've known about. The Warriors are not playing too well. The dude's got a ton of championship potential or championship rings. He's got that dog in him, but he is kind of, on his way out. What are your thoughts on Draymond Green? What do you think he could bring to Sacramento? Would you even consider this guy? Because he's a 4.
I would consider Draymond Green if he was willing to sign the vet minimum. Other than that, no thank you. I think he's, like you said, he's getting older. He is not anywhere near the player he used to be. Could he help the team? Yeah, absolutely. A veteran voice, as much as you can really credit him with that. Leadership is questioned a lot as well, I think, but certainly comes from a championship pedigree, has the relationship with Mike Brown, really good defender in his prime. All of those things are good, right? But I'm not overspending to sign an aging Draymond Green who could go off and punch someone in the face at any moment. That's just a ridiculous option for a young team that's trying to build and get better. So this is definitely going to be something I stay away from, I think.
Yeah, I could not agree. Could not agree more. Next up, we have Christian Wood. We saw him recently get traded from the Rockets to the Dallas Mavericks. However, Calvin, he is an unrestricted free agent, could be commanding $20+ million, but he also is a big, which we've been talking about the Kings need. What are your thoughts on Christian Wood? Would you do it?
I would. I love Christian Wood. I think he's an incredibly efficient player, somebody that would work well next to Sabonis, can play the 4. We're seeing him do really good things for Dallas off the bench. I'm still surprised that they're not starting him. Maybe they have made that change. I haven't actually seen the Mavericks play in a few weeks, but I love him as a player. I think he would fit on this team really well. the question is how much money is it going to cost, right? Because his value, I think, has gone up a lot in the past 6 months.
Yep, I could not agree more. All right. Looks like we are nearing the end of the show. So if you guys have any questions for us, go ahead and drop them here in the chat. And we're going to talk about the game tomorrow against the Chicago Bulls. So let's go ahead and dive into that. The Kings are on their way home right now to Sacramento. They're sleeping in their own beds, getting home-cooked meals tonight, and then they take on the Chicago Bulls in Sacramento. The Bulls are probably already there waiting for them. This is another early game. It is at 1 p.m. The Kings are favorites to win this game right now, and currently Lonzo Ball and Alex Caruso are both out for the Chicago Bulls. Nobody out for the Kings as of right now. But the Kings are favored by 1.5. Calvin, give me your thoughts on this game, and then we can jump right into keys of the game.
Well, this is going to be a different test for the Sacramento Kings, right? The Bulls are hurt, obviously, with Lonzo, who hasn't played yet this season, but Alex Caruso also being out. He's one of their better defenders. So against the team that is, top 2 in the NBA in offense, advantage Sacramento, I think. However, defensively, the Kings are going to be presented with a different challenge here. Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan are 2 of the best individual one-on-one players in the NBA, can get buckets like crazy. They can go off. They can both go off at any moment. And we'll get to your keys here in a second, but my number one key for this game, we've talked so much about Sabonis being in foul trouble. It's going to be really imperative in this game because Metu's done a good job coming in as the backup center, but it's a big-time advantage, I would say, for Vucevic if Metu has to spend a lot of time guarding him inside. So keep Sabonis on the floor is going to be a big one.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Sabonis needs to stay out of foul trouble. You need to defend the 3 in this game. And honestly, you just need to settle down and get back to what the game plan has been, I think is the most important thing. So the Kings take on the Bulls tomorrow. And then they head on this really, really tough road trip. 6 games on the road. I'm talking about good teams, too. You got the Bucks. You got the Cavs, the Knicks, the Sixers. You got the Raptors. And then you ended in Detroit against the Pistons, which I guess is probably the best way to end a road trip. But there's 5 really, really tough games there on the road. Yes, the Kings do get a couple days off after tomorrow to help them adjust. We talked about Chris Middleton coming back last night. Whether he'll be available on Wednesday is yet to be seen. But definitely a tough road trip for the Kings. I think getting the win on Wednesday and getting the win today were huge confidence boosters. It helped, cut out that 3-game losing streak for the Kings and help them get a little bit on a roll. They're also 3 games currently above 500, which gives them a little bit of padding heading here into this road trip. But honestly, Calvin, we've seen what this Kings team is capable. We've seen them play extremely well. We've seen them win games when they haven't played extremely well. So this team has got fight in it. It's got talent. They got good coaching, good players, a really deep bench, and a lot of different possibilities. So this is going to be a good test for the Kings. It really, really will. But, I'm tired of dodging good players. I'm tired of dodging good teams. If you want to be a good team in this league, you got to beat good teams. And every single one of these wins, I don't care if De'Aaron Fox has got 14 points or 40 points. Every single win against a good basketball team is a learning lesson for De'Aaron Fox, and he is continuing to get better and better and better. So give me your thoughts here on this road trip. What you want to see out of the Sacramento Kings. And honestly, they return home against the Charlotte Hornets on the 19th of December. Tell me, what this next couple weeks looks like for you, and what I guess the Kings need to build off of. Like, what makes this a productive road trip for them?
I mean, I would say going 500 on the road trip is productive, more than productive. This is going to be a really tough one. I'm just going to echo a lot of the things that you said. It's nut up or shut up, right? You got to play. You got to beat good teams if you're going to be a good team in this league. And this is a great opportunity for the Kings, who have been a bad road team in the past because they've been overall not a good team. If they're going to change the narrative, you got to start winning some of these games on the road against some of the best competitions. So I think they just need to continue building off of what they're doing right now. Offensively, they're in a really good rhythm, which it bodes well. You want to see them shoot well on the road. They haven't done that a lot of times this season. So hitting some shots from the outside is going to open things up against good defensive teams, make it easier for De'Aaron Fox to get inside and Sabonis to get some offensive rebound opportunities. But then defensively, continuing to be together as a team, really good in the half court, forcing some turnovers, getting out in transition. That's what makes this team go. So you just want to see those types of things continue against some of the league's better teams.
All right, couple questions here before we wrap it up. Shout out to D Davis here. What do you think Sacramento's midseason record will be, Calvin?
Man, I mean, that's tough. I don't know if I'm going to pick an exact number of wins here, but as long as they stay, somewhere where they're at net right now or better, 2, 3, 4, 5 games above 500, I think you have to feel really confident about this team.
For some reason, I'm thinking 25-16. I know that's a stretch.
Oh man, that would be incredible.
Yeah, it is. It is. But for some reason, that's what's popping up. 25-16. You heard it here first. Who do you think will be the MVP this season, Calvin?
Of the Kings or the entire league?
Of the league.
Right now, I'm going to go with Jason Tatum. I know what Luka is doing in Dallas is really special. There are a bunch of guys who are having phenomenal seasons. I think there's over 7 players right now averaging 30 points per game or more. It's just ridiculous what a lot of these guys are doing. But Jason Tatum, to me, is the best player on the best team in the league. If he continues to put up those insane numbers, the Celtics are setting NBA records shooting from outside. I would give an early edge to Jason Tatum right now.
Yeah, he's balling out. He really, really is. I thought this might have been Embiid's year. I thought he was posed to have a huge year, but you're right. Jason Tatum is probably the best player right now. Kelly Oubre is a bench piece. I'm open to it, but honestly, there's not many minutes left on this bench. We got a lot of really good players here. Okay. Anybody else here? Any last questions? Calvin, you know what I figured out today?
Jesus.
I actually didn't know this, but did you know that Harrison Barnes and Matt Barnes are related?
They are?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Crazy, right? Crazy. Anyways, I think that's about it. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Please don't forget to smash up that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification cowbell. Calvin, any last words for the stream here?
Oh, man, I got to make my plug right now, Barry. Like you like to say, the Kings are undefeated when they light the beam. Michigan football is undefeated when they play football. Go Blue. Big Ten championship coming up. It's going to be the perfect way to cap off a Kings win. I'm moving on to football, Barry. Basketball is over.
All right, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a wonderful night, and we will catch you guys tomorrow. But in the meantime, go Kings. I'm just fucking with you guys about the Barnes.